Welcome to the students of first PUC. This is session 3 of chapter 6, work, energy and power. In the previous session we had learnt about differentiation and integration. With the help of these two concepts, today we shall derive the expression for work done in case of a variable force. We will prove work energy theorem in case of a variable force and then look into what do we mean by potential energy and conservative forces. Let me begin. Here the force f of x means the force changes with position, or as we move along a path, force keeps on changing. So, we will derive the work done in case of a variable force. To derive the expression for work done in case of a variable force, let us plot a graph of force along y-axis and position, that is x, along x-axis. Let the graph be as shown below. We will take force, the varying force along y-axis and position along x-axis. So, let it be like this. So, the force has been increasing and decreasing, and the force acts between the positions xi, which is the initial position, and xf, which is the final position. So, we know that work done is given by the area under force versus position graph. So, what we will do? We will find the area below this graph. To find, let us divide this area into number of rectangles. Divide the area under the graph into small rectangles, each of width delta x. So, what we will do is, the area under the graph, divide them into number of rectangles, and every rectangle width is delta x. Let one of such rectangles have an area delta A, which is equal to the force at this position, which is equal to the force at position x into delta x. Here delta x is the small amount of displacement for which the force is considered to be constant. The small work done for a small displacement delta x is given by delta w, and this is equal to the area of this rectangle. So, this is force at position x into delta x. The total work done in displacing the object from the position xi to xf is now given by the summation of all the work done from the initial position to the final position. So, this is going to be summation xi till xf of force into displacement. Here we have considered that the force is constant for a small displacement delta x. If we reduce delta x to a more smaller value, then definitely the force is constant for small displacements. Then the summation becomes integration. As delta x tends to 0, the summation becomes, we continue here, the work done is going to be equal to, now as limit tends to 0, the summation of the work done from position xi to xf, and this is nothing but now integration of f dot dx. Delta x becomes dx, and the integration is from the initial position to the final position xf. So, this is the expression for work done in case of a variable force. If I take this as equation 1, this one as equation 2, and equation 3. Now, equation 3 gives the expression for work done by a variable force. So, we have derived the expression for work done in case of a variable force. Remember this formula, we will be in need of this formula to prove work energy theorem in case of a variable force. Let us now begin to prove the work energy theorem in case of a variable force. We know that if a continuous force is applied on an object, then its velocity keeps on increasing or keeps on changing with time, and therefore its kinetic energy also keeps changing with time. That does mean that kinetic energy is a function of time. Also, velocity is a function of time. Kinetic energy is a function of time. Therefore, we can find the derivative of kinetic energy with respect to time. Also, velocity is a function of time. We can also find the derivative of velocity with respect to time. Let us see what does this mean. The expression for kinetic energy is given by, we know the formula for kinetic energy, which is half mv square. So, what does this imply? Kinetic energy is a function of velocity. As velocity changes, kinetic energy also changes, and velocity is further a function of time. So, we have studied about differentiation of function of a function. So, dk by dt or differentiation of kinetic energy with respect to time is now given by dk by dv, kinetic energy as a function of velocity, into dv by dt. So, differentiate kinetic energy with respect to velocity. This gives d by dv of half mv square into dv by dt. Half and m are constants. So, differentiation of v square with respect to v into dv by dt. So, what does this lead to? Further, this gives dk by dt is going to be equal to d by dv of v square is 2v, that will give us half m into 2v into dv by dt. So, 2 and 2 get cancelled. What we get is m into v into dv by dt. We know dv by dt, rate of change of velocity, is nothing but acceleration. Also, velocity can be written as rate of change of position. So, in this formula I will write, in case of dv by dt as a, and in case of v as dx by dt. Rearrange, I can write this as m into a into dx by dt. So, dk by dt is now giving me mass into acceleration, this is nothing but force, into dx by dt. Further, dt and dt I can take them off. This now leads to change in kinetic energy is going to be equal to force, mass into acceleration is force, into dx, which is displacement. Now, let us integrate this. On integrating, we get, so integrate the change in kinetic energy from initial kinetic energy to final kinetic energy. This will give us integration of f dot dx from initial position to final position. Now, we know that integration of f dot dx is nothing but work done in case of a variable force. Therefore, this gives integration of dk is nothing but kinetic energy k, and the limits are from initial kinetic energy to final kinetic energy is equal to work done. From definite integrals, we can write this as final kinetic energy minus initial kinetic energy is equal to work done. So, we know this formula, we have derived the same in case of work energy theorem for a constant force. We got the same even in case of a variable force. So, we have proved that work energy theorem holds good even in case of a variable force. Work done by the variable force is equal to change in kinetic energy. We shall conclude by making a statement after this. This proves work energy theorem in case of a variable force. This finishes the proof of work energy theorem in case of a variable force. We will now proceed to see what do we mean by potential energy and conservative forces. Now, let us see what do we mean by potential energy, conservative force, and the total mechanical energy. Potential energy and the total mechanical energy both are related to conservative force. To understand these three things, we will have an example and some mathematics. So, let us not note down anything, let us look into the example and the mathematics, and later note down what do we mean by potential energy conservative force and the total mechanical energy. To understand about potential energy and conservative force, let us think of an object on the ground surface, and we know on every object on earth there is always gravitational force acting on it, and it is acting vertically downwards. Now let me lift it to a height h. I will take this to a height h. So from the ground surface I have lifted the object to a height h. As gravitational force is always pulling it down, I have to do a work which is equal and opposite to the gravitational force. So the work done to lift the object from ground to the height h is going to be equal to the negative of the gravitational force into displacement, and in this case the displacement is height h. So I will get this as minus mgh. We have studied earlier from the work energy theorem that the work done is equal to change in kinetic energy. But here when I have lifted and held the object at height h, so there is no any change in its kinetic energy, then what is the change? The change here is the potential energy, and now I call this the gravitational potential energy. Every potential energy is represented by the capital letter V. To represent gravitational potential energy, I will use a subscript G. Now in terms of magnitude, the gravitational potential energy is given by mgh. So whenever you are doing work against gravitational force, if you are lifting an object by a height h, the work done is stored as potential energy. So here the gravitational force is now called the conservative force. When work is done against a conservative force, the work done is stored as potential energy. Next, after taking the object to a height h, let me release it. We know if you release it, it again comes down, and let the object now be at some position h, and the object is in motion. It now has a velocity v. So here it has gained a kinetic energy which is given by half mv square. So lift an object to an height h and release it, it again gains kinetic energy. It comes down, and as it comes down, its velocity keeps on increasing and it has gained kinetic energy. So whenever you are doing work against a conservative force, an object gains potential energy. And in the intermediate state, when the object is at height small h, again in this case it has a potential energy given by mgh. So in the intermediate state, the object possesses both kinetic energy and potential energy, and this is now equal to an energy called the total mechanical energy. So an object under the influence of a conservative force can possess both kinetic energy and potential energy at the same time, and the sum of kinetic energy and potential energy is called as the total mechanical energy. So in intermediate state, or somewhere between ground and the maximum height h, the object possesses a total mechanical energy represented by capital E, and it is equal to the sum of potential energy plus kinetic energy. Next, from the expression given here, take the object to more greater height, then definitely the potential energy will increase more. As you know from your experience, any object, release it from more and more greater height, when it comes back, it hits back with more and more greater velocity or more and more greater kinetic energy. So the potential energy here, the gravitational potential energy here is a function of height h. Finally, let me take, if I consider the downward direction as negative, the force acting on the object is always towards the ground surface, which is downwards, and it is negative. So if I take the negative derivative of potential energy, of gravitational potential energy, then it is minus d by dh of mgh. Here mass and acceleration due to gravity near the surface of the earth are constant, so you can take them out, and d by dh of h will give you 1, so it is minus m into g. Now this is equal to the gravitational force. So I can say for conservative force, and in this case gravitational force is equal to the negative of the derivative of the gravitational potential energy. Similarly, as we proceed further, we will see that if I have a spring and mass attached to it, pull the mass aside by a distance x. In this case, the force exerted by the spring when you pull it aside is given by minus k into x. The force or the restoring force by the spring, which I can represent as Fs, the spring force, is going to be given by minus kx, where k is the extension of the spring. The more you pull the spring rebounds back with greater force. And we will also see that the potential energy in this case gained by the object is given by half k x square. Whenever you pull an object attached to a spring aside, then if you release, it again rebounds back. So when you have pulled, the work done to pull the spring is now stored as potential energy in the object. I can call this as the elastic force, the elastic potential energy or the spring potential energy. And we will also see that the spring force can be written as the negative derivative of the potential energy. From these two examples also, in both the cases, the potential energies are dependent upon the positions of the object. Here it depends upon the height of the object from the surface. Here it depends upon the extension of the object from the rest position. So in both the cases, potential energy is a function of position x. X can be height in this case, and here x represents the amount of extension. Finally, the work done against the conservative force in this case gives the change in potential energy. So the work done is going to be initial potential energy minus final potential energy. From these two examples, now I am able to define what do we mean by potential energy and where does potential energy arise, what do we mean by conservative force, and what is the total mechanical energy. Potential energy is defined as the energy possessed by a body due to its position or configuration under the influence of a conservative force. What are the examples for potential energy? The first one, an object raised to a height h, let me take here small h, gains gravitational potential energy, and this gravitational potential energy I can represent it by V subscript G. Second thing, an object attached to a spring and on compression or extension of a spring gains, in this case I may call this as elastic potential energy, or the spring potential energy I can represent it as V subscript S. So these are the two examples. We can also have other examples. When you come to second PUC, you will see that a charge under the influence of electric field gains electrostatic potential energy. So these are the examples for different types of potential energies under different conservative force. In the first example, the conservative force was gravitational force. In the second example, the conservative force was the spring force or the restoring force of a spring. In the third example, the conservative force is an electrostatic force. You will learn about electrostatic force in second year. Now let us see what do we mean by conservative force, or what are the different ways of defining a conservative force. From the previous examples, I can define conservative force in three different ways. The first one being a force f of x, which is force which is dependent on the position, is conservative if it can be derived from a scalar quantity v of x. So mathematically writing, if the force is conservative, then the conservative force can be derived from a potential energy v of x, and it is negative of the derivative of potential energy. Next, the work done by the conservative force depends only on the endpoints. So mathematically, how do you write this? So the work done is going to be equal to change in potential energy, where potential energy is a function of the initial position and the final position. So the potential energy gained by the object depends only upon the position. So the work done is also dependent only upon the position and not the path taken. To understand this, let us think. So if I have an object on the surface, and if at all I have stairs, let me take the object above the stairs, moving horizontally, vertically, horizontally, vertically, and horizontally, and let me bring the object to the position here, and the object is now at height h. Initially the height h was 0. You may have travelled a lot of distance considering the horizontal and the vertical paths travelled, but these horizontal paths travelled does not contribute in changing its potential energy. What contributes is only the vertical height h. So the potential energy is dependent only upon the height h. Here the potential energy is given by mgh, and it is dependent only upon the height h. So that is what this thing tells. The work done by conservative force depends only on the end points. The final definition: a force is conservative. A force f of x is conservative if the work done by the force over a closed path is 0. So what does this mean? We consider the same object, raise it by a height h, and let the object come back down. So initially the height h was 0 and the potential energy is 0. When you have raised, and if the object comes back again the potential energy is 0. So this is a closed path coming to the same position again. So when it has come back to the same position, change in its potential energy is going to be 0, which means the work done in coming back to the same position is also going to be 0. So these are the three definitions for conservative force. We will now see what is the total mechanical energy of an object. For an object under conservative force, the total mechanical energy is the sum of potential energy and kinetic energy. The total mechanical energy here is represented by capital E. So I can write the total mechanical energy is equal to the sum of potential energy plus kinetic energy. Finally, we have law of conservation of mechanical energy for an object under conservative force. So let us see what is it. Here is the statement of law of conservation of mechanical energy. It says the total mechanical energy of a system is conserved if the forces doing work on it are conservative. To understand this statement better, we have to prove this law in case of a freely falling body under the gravity. So we will prove that. By proving that, we will understand this statement more better. We will now prove the law of conservation of mechanical energy in case of a freely falling body. So here I have a diagram where an object of mass m is taken to a height h and it is dropped from the height h. When it is just dropped, the velocity here is going to be 0. So the kinetic energy at this position is 0. Now let us proceed. Consider an object of mass m taken to a height h and dropped from h. Here the diagram depicts 3 different cases. The first case, case 1, at height h, the velocity v is going to be 0. Therefore, the potential energy v is given by mg into h, whereas the kinetic energy, which is half mv square, is going to be 0, which implies the total mechanical energy, which is the sum of potential energy and kinetic energy, is going to be mgh plus 0, and this is mgh. So in the first case, when the object is just dropped at height h, the total energy of the object is given by mgh. Next, the second case, when the object is at a height small h. Now the object has travelled already a distance x, which is equal to capital H minus h. Now let us see what is the total energy at this position. At height h, the object has travelled a distance x, which is equal to h minus small h. From the kinematic equations, the velocity at this position is given by v square is equal to u square plus 2as. When the object was initially just dropped, its initial velocity was 0, so it is 0 plus 2 into, here g is acceleration due to gravity g, and s is the distance that it has travelled, which is h minus h. So I will get v square as equal to 2gh minus h. So remember this further. We continue the same. So now the kinetic energy, which is given by half mv square, can be written as half m, in place of v square it is 2g into capital H minus small h, 2 and 2 get cancelled, and the kinetic energy in this case is mgh minus h. Further, potential energy in this case is going to be mgh. At this point, the height from the surface is small h, therefore potential energy is mgh, which implies the total mechanical energy, which is the sum of potential energy and kinetic energy, is going to be mgh plus mg into h minus h, which gives mgh plus mgh minus mgh. Here minus mgh and plus mgh cancelled, and the total mechanical energy is going to be mg capital H, equation 2. So we have got the total mechanical energy in case 2 at a height small h. Again here we got the total mechanical energy as mg into capital H. The final case when it has reached the surface. When the object has reached the ground surface, so it has travelled a distance of x which is equal to capital H. So from the top to the surface it has now travelled a distance equal to capital H. Therefore, the final velocity can be given by u square plus 2as. U square, the initial velocity is 0, so it is 0, and in place of a its acceleration due to gravity, and the distance travelled in this case now is h. So v square is now equal to 2gh. Therefore, kinetic energy which is half m v square is now equal to half m into 2gh. So 2 and 2 get cancelled, and k is equal to mg into capital H. When the object has reached the ground surface, when it is hitting the ground, its kinetic energy is mg into capital H. Then the potential energy in this case is mg into the height here is 0. So this is going to be 0. Therefore, the total energy is now equal to potential energy plus kinetic energy, which is 0 plus mgh. Finally, you will get this as mg capital H. If you observe equation 1, 2 and 3, the total mechanical energy in all the cases was mg into capital H. So this says for an object under conservative force, the total mechanical energy is a constant, or the total mechanical energy is conserved. So let me finally conclude the statement. From equation 1, 2 and 3, the total mechanical energy of a freely falling body is a constant. This proves the law of conservation of mechanical energy. That's all for this session. Thank you.